Welcome, everybody. Hey, good to have you back with us. We're good to be here. I'm Dan McDermott. Joining me from Sarasota, Florida is Mr. Craig Shipp. Welcome, Craig. And he is muted.
I shouldn't be.
Okay, you're back.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so...
Technical fail already, huh?
I know. First of a series tonight.
Within 4 seconds.
So anyway, Alan, Pam, Cadeas, the others can't make it tonight, so... Craig is here, thank God. Anyway, so our first story, we will be talking about net neutrality and the dress viral post a little bit. First, let's some Google Plus stuff. There was a good interview with Sundar and the vice president for product, the head product guy, and it's pretty in depth. And on page 2 and page 3, they discuss that Google Plus may be. He defends it, and it's been criticized outside, but he says really there's 2 reasons they did it. One was the social stuff, but also to have a unified login for all of the Google stuff. It said it's done very well at that, but he says that he could see it breaking up into pieces, and that the 3 pieces would be photos and the Hangouts, which have emerged from a video conferencing thing to encompass the Google Voice features and the former Google Talk, and it's an overall completely different thing. And so there would be the stream that we now know as plus.google.com or the apps, and then the second, and the photos and the Hangouts. So it could be separate products. I don't think that's a shocker, Craig. What are your thoughts?
I don't know why it matters. I mean, what would it matter that they break it up? I don't understand what they would gain from doing that.
I don't get that either. I'm not sure, unless Google Plus was so off-putting that they felt they would get wider adoption. Because Hangouts is, most people use it not within Google Plus. Most people use it either as a standalone app or an app on their phone, right? I'm not going into Google Plus to look at Hangouts.
I don't know how many people use it, period, tell you the truth.
I think yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the adoption rate is. But another thing in that article was that they're closing the gap between iOS and Android as far as money. I think they said that it was 7. I think, was it 10 billion? Apple paid last year to developers, and Google paid 7. It used to be a much wider gap. Any thoughts on that?
I hadn't heard that. I know that as far as profits on cell phone sales, Apple's over 90% now of the profits.
So that's more.
So yeah, they're pretty much kicking butt in that arena. But I'm not aware of what's being paid in the app stores to developers. That if they have made that kind of progress, that's amazing, because I think one of the key things to Android is a lot of the stuff is free, and that's what people like about it. So it means that people are now ponying up for stuff on Android, which is kind of surprising.
Aren't there a lot of free iOS apps, but they're ad supported, and then maybe they're crippled?
There are, but traditionally on the iOS side, most things were more expensive. In other words, there'd be an app that would be free on Android, but would be $1 or $2 on iOS, and that was like routine.
Gotcha.
And also there would be apps that would be more expensive, $5 or $10 on iOS, which people just wouldn't even go for on Android. So if that's changing, that's news to me.
Okay. All right, another story here. Google backs down over explicit images on Blogger. Apparently they've for some time they said that you couldn't run ads on a blogger site that had porn, but then they said you couldn't have it, and if you did, that you would they would make it unlisted, and you'd have to invite people, and they'd have to opt in to see it, and then a bunch of people, and that applied to your legacy posts, so people were forced to have to go back years in some cases, and then now apparently they've backed down. So,
because anything goes on Tumblr, right?
I think, yeah, a lot of people were switching to Tumblr, which was a hassle, but less of a hassle than, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never posted porn, but, and it was only if you had, let's say you had, you know, craigsgirls.com or something, and it was a blogger site, that was allowed. But if it actually had Blogger or Blogspot in the URL, then this would apply. But apparently they've backed down. So
Google changing their mind about something. I'm amazed.
Shocker. And then Google Plus has improved their mobile web site. So if you go to plus.google.com on a browser, I don't know anybody uses that. I guess I looked at the post, and I guess there's no app for Windows, and there's the original iPad does not have a Google Plus app. But do you ever go on the mobile web to Google Plus? I mean,
I don't go to Google Plus, period, on the regular web. So.
Okay. So anyway, you can check that out. I'm getting an echo back from you. I'm not sure why.
From me?
Yeah.
I can turn the volume down a little bit on the.
Next up is Google plans new headquarters, and a city fears being overrun. So there's two articles there, and the headquarters is really nice. It's a mountain view, and it's like a big glass thing. I don't know why I'm getting an echo from you still. That's weird. I never get an echo from you.
I've got the speakers way down, and my microphone's right here in front of me, facing this way. I don't know why.
I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, go. I guess we'll have to do that. It's only when I'm talking I hear it back. So anyway, the new plans are gorgeous. It's like a big glass dome, and then they're going to have modular buildings inside, many structures that they can expand, move around based on need. So there's that, but there's also the second issue that a lot of these tech companies are having, where this was a little bedroom community, and all of a sudden the company comes in. When Google came, I think they had 12 to 20 people when they came to Mountain View, and now they're massive, and it's changed the town. And we're seeing the Apple and Facebook and Cupertino and whatever Facebook is, I forget, face similar things. And so they want to build more housing in town.
Heaven forbid all this money come into their town, right?
Well, the problem is, if you don't work for those guys and you're trying to rent an apartment or buy a house, the prices have gone through the roof. So some people are like you and me, and they're like, bring it, you know. And other folks are like, you've screwed up my town. And then they keep finding reasons to not approve housing because they're afraid if they want to build 5,000 housing units for Googlers, and they're afraid that, you know, this is a city where like 12,000 people voted, or 20,000, whatever it is. And if you have 5,000 new voters who are all, you know, it'll become a company town. And so they keep finding, I think they said that if they build housing, it will disrupt the owls. Yeah, I mean, they're coming up with all these things, you know.
There would be a lot of towns that would love to have this problem.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then another thing, Google, an executive was talking about Google Fiber, and they said that they were talking about some of the problems that they had. And they said, if you want Google Fiber in your town, make it easy. And they said one of the issues was just stuff like they always want faxes they don't do email or anything. They want you to fax stuff. So they had to get like a bunch of fax machines to communicate with these people. And that they said it was sometimes the towns didn't have accurate information about like where the telephone poles were and, you know, the various infrastructure to know for Google to make a decision. And they said that if you want it, make it easy, because they can take their pick, right, of any town that wants them. So that was
more towns. Are they going to move forward with more towns? Have they said?
They've announced them, but I think it's only in 3 places now, right? It's in Utah, which was a purchase. They bought an existing.
That's been a while that they've had
Right.
those in the works. I mean, are there any new ones?
I think they've announced plans. I don't remember, but
Okay.
they say that they're going to keep rolling it out. But you know, a lot of people say stuff. So I think that if they could figure out how to make it profitable, maybe it is profitable. I know that conventional broadband, I think I've seen estimates where the gross profit is like 97%. That they make a killing on that versus cable TV. But you got to have, people want the bundle, you know. So, Inbox has come to Google Apps. This is really a Michael Ellis thing, but your administrator has to approve it, and it's still invite only, but it's pretty easy to get an invite. But have you tried Inbox versus Gmail, Craig?
Isn't that what I'm using?
It's
Gmail?
inbox.google.com as opposed to mail.google.com.
I guess I'm not then. I guess I'm not.
It's a new thing, and what it does is it sorts your. Alan would yell at me for my description, but basically it helps you. In the same way that Gmail put those 4 filters on, social versus primary, you know, it kind of is that on steroids. And it also lets you say, okay, remind me of this. Instead of a purely linear inbox like it used to be, it's you can prioritize or say, remind me in 2 hours or the next day, that kind of thing. And I'm just afraid I'm going to miss stuff, but Alan swears by it and just loves it. So,
It was on the show actually when that was initially discussed. I remember talking about that, and it wouldn't apply to me because of the way I use my Gmail, but I can see where some people it would be a big plus.
Yeah. Okay. And there was some news on the net neutrality front. We've discussed this a bit. Basically, the FCC is voted 3-2 on partisan lines to do 2 things. One, to remove a ban, to overrule a state ban on the expansion of municipal broadband by in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I think, and in Wilson, North Carolina. There were bans similar to there's a ban in Virginia against a municipality offering broadband. And in this case, they did it. It wasn't a total ban. It was a thing that said Chattanooga's utility could only do it within Chattanooga's limits, but the outskirts wanted it bad because businesses were literally leaving to go into Chattanooga to get the better internet. And then the second thing they did was they voted to classify internet carriers as common carriers under Title II of the Communications Act of 1996, and it would the larger view. I mean, it's going to be a long document, and they haven't released it yet. But the basic tenets are: they have to treat all traffic equally. No paid fast lanes. No throttling. No blocking of any legal content. So they can still block, say, pirated movies, but they can't block. They can't slow Netflix down and extort money from Netflix, which Comcast did. Craig, what do you think about that?
Asked me. I think that it's typical, unfortunately, of our government these days, and not just our government, just people in general, not willing to push and really do things over the top all the way. I've done a series recently on boat shoes that are made in the USA, and some vintage ones that are 25, 30 years old that were made in the USA that are no longer, for example, Timberland makes them, they no longer make them in the USA. and I've done a series of videos on these. And I hate to say, those were the good old days, back when the U.S. really stepped up and built things and did things, and a lot of things over the top. The Golden Gate Bridge, a lot of these things. We had a can-do attitude, and we really kicked ass, and we really made things happen. And I'm sure there were politics back then where people didn't want to build the bridge or whatever, but the bottom line is we got things done. And that's what I'm not seeing with things like this initiative with the FCC, is they're talking about regulation as opposed to how do we fix this problem? In other words, how do we get everybody high-speed internet that's affordable? How do we create competition? How do we create choice? These are the things that should be discussed. How do we run fiber? And we've talked about this on the show many times. How do we run fiber to every house in the country, every business? How do we provide high-speed wireless internet to everybody? This should be something that the United States of America can do. This should be something, this should not be a big deal. This should not have a whole bunch of people from one side of the aisle versus another side, fighting about regulations and this, that, and the other thing. We should just decide to freaking do this. And the incumbents, the cable companies and all of them, we should be able to be more powerful than them. We should be able to put them in their place and say, hey, listen, you've had a long run, you've had a monopoly for a long time, we're going to change that. We're going to give you some competition. And we're going to make sure that there are various choices that people have. And we're going to make sure that these United States has the fastest internet of anywhere in the world. That should be the discussion. It shouldn't be around, do we regulate what Comcast does? We shouldn't give a rat's rear end what Comcast does. So Comcast shouldn't be the problem.
So you oppose what the FCC did?
Absolutely, because what they're doing is they're wanting to regulate the internet in effect. And the old saying, you let the camel's head under the tent, right? The whole camel's going to come in.
So it should be okay for Comcast to make Netflix pay to not be throttled.
Comcast should not be in the position of that kind of power. That is a big problem. We should have never allowed that to happen. We should immediately rectify that. Again, we should provide fiber to every home, every business. This should be we go to the moon, right? Within these 10 years, we're going to go to the moon. This should be within 2 years, we're going to have fiber to every home. And this should be a big initiative, and everybody should be crying out for this. Otherwise, this country's going to be left behind. Otherwise, we're going to be having this same discussion, Dan, 10 years from now. I guarantee you, we're going to be sitting here having the same freaking discussion about, should we put some more regulations on Comcast? That's a ridiculous conversation to be having. It's ridiculous that they're in a position that they have that kind of power.
Okay, so I agree with everything you said, except I disagree with everything you said. No, I agree with.
Let me show an exhibit, Dan. I'm going to show an exhibit here. All right, and I have a review on my YouTube channel. By the way, my YouTube channel just went over 10 million views. All right, I'm celebrating 10 million views this week. And what I've got up here on the screen is a pair of vintage Timberland boat shoes that were made in the mid-'80s that I bought on eBay, that were in mint condition, never been worn, new in the box. See, that thing says Timberland, made in the USA, blah, blah, blah. And they actually say right on that piece of literature, more quality than you may ever need. And then they go in there and they brag about the solid brass eyelets and all the different things. You go to the freaking store right now and try to find a pair of shoes like that. Good luck. And there is no excuse for this country, as great as this country is, for us not to be able to make high-quality products anymore, and for us not to be able to provide high-quality service better than anybody in the world. And this goes to internet. We should be leading the way. It shouldn't even be a debate that, let me stop the screen share. It shouldn't be even a debate as to who has the fastest internet in the world. We shouldn't be in a discussion, does Japan have faster internet than us? Does South Korea have faster internet than us? Is Europe wiring more houses with fiber than us? I mean, is Sweden going to have faster internet than us? This shouldn't be a discussion.
We agree on all that, but that's
what we should be talking about, Dan. This is a distraction. This is the musician, magician, distracting you, getting you looking over here when he's doing the thing over here, right? Comcast is laughing all the way to the bank with this. This is going to delay things for many years. There's going to be all kinds of freaking lawsuits. They're going to get their lobbyists up in arms and doing all their thing. Meanwhile, nothing is going to happen for years and years and years. They're going to keep their monopoly. And when all is said and done and all the regulation is done, written, and all that, they're still going to have their freaking monopoly. It isn't going to help a damn thing. And we will have wasted 5 or 10 years. That's what's going to happen here.
All right, so Craig's right that we should have all those things, but he's wrong on what the FCC did, I think. I absolutely support it. Anything we can do to screw Comcast and stop them
it's
from...
not going to screw them. It's not going to hurt them one bit.
Well, we disagree on that. If this actually happens, if they won't be able to play favorites, they won't be able to slow something down to try to extort money from a company, if they won't be able to prevent your service, T-Mobile's doing a thing where Spotify doesn't count toward your data plan. So then if you want to create your own music streaming service, nobody on T-Mobile is going to use it because it's going to count for you, but it's not going to, the data won't count for Spotify. So they're picking winners and losers. They're protecting the incumbents.
Good luck for all those things happening that you just outlined.
All right, let me do some comments here. We got some comments. Let me get my right mouse here. We've got Google Plus Week. Okay. On YouTube, we've got Michael Daniels. I'm so psyched. I rarely get a chance to come in on the show. Come on, do the show anymore. Good to have you with us. I'm making it separate opens wide and not have. He said making it separate opens it wide open to not have to tie people to Google Plus. He's talking about splitting up Google Plus, the stream with the Hangouts and the photos. Michael does not like Inbox. I don't like it either. I'm afraid I'm going to lose stuff, but Alan says I'm crazy. That I'm more likely to lose stuff or miss stuff in Gmail than Inbox. So maybe I need to try it again.
Inbox, can you no longer use the existing Inbox that we have? I mean, is it you have to use one or the other?
You can use both simultaneously. You could have them both open in different tabs. But if you do that, you're going to get if you have both apps on your phone, you're going to get notifications twice for every email. Right? Unless you shut one off, which is kludgy.
Notifications for emails at all.
Very thought out process with the new Google buildings. I think Gmail is so much better for business. And then Ken Lubert says net neutrality does nothing for promoting competition. For anybody who thinks this proposal is good, remember that when your internet service becomes a utility and you're paying a USF charge, they specifically said there would be no regulatory fees, taxes, or anything like that. Although that could change.
Yeah, the politicians, they never lie. Yeah.
So there you
Absolutely
go.
Right. It does the opposite. Not only does it not encourage competition, it does the opposite. It's going to make it harder for competitors to come in and compete because they're going to have to meet all kinds of regulations, which Comcast is going to help write. Their lawyers are going to help write all the regulations that new guys coming in are going to have to put up with. So they'll put all kinds of roadblocks in place and so forth for competitors. So this is going to solidify the monopoly. It's going to screw the hell out of us, and it's going to help the rest of the world.
He's wrong. All right, so we disagree. Next up, 4K TV's biggest content problem, no live broadcast anytime soon. This is one of your pet projects, and you just got a new 4K camera. I think you got a few of them now. And
let me show you. And I've got a review on my YouTube channel, which just went over 10 million views. This is the little Handycam, the Sony camcorder that came out. Which the cool thing about it is it has BOSS, which is the new optical stabilization where well, actually, let me turn it on so you can see it. Where the whole assembly in there moves. I don't know if you can see it moving in there or not.
Like a gyroscope kind of.
Yeah, the whole lens assembly and sensor and so forth, the whole thing moves in there to keep it steady. And I had a 1080p version of this camera before, but this is the 4K one that just came out, and it's pretty good. It's a small sensor in here, so I mean it's not great, right? Again, I mean we're back to the compromises, right? We're back to these United States used to be great. We didn't have to compromise on stuff. We have really great stuff, and we were leaders, right? This thing's made in China, and it's a compromise. So that's where we're headed with all this stuff. But 4K, go ahead, Dan.
So right now you can you can get a 4K TV for 1 to 23 grand, and they're gorgeous. You go into Costco now. Walmart has them finally. My local Walmart has a 4K TV, and the picture's absolutely stunning.
How much was that one?
I don't remember. I would guess a grand, more or less. You know, I would doubt it's less than a grand. So, but one of the things is it's unlikely that live television will happen anytime soon, and they go into detail about this. Now, of course, live television is becoming less relevant, especially among younger people, but there's still big tentpole things like the Super Bowl, the Oscars, the World Cup.
Things like that. Won't they be streaming like the Super Bowl, for example?
That's one thing the article didn't go into, which surprised me. But they said that the TV stations would have to spend a tremendous amount of money, and that the article speculates that what they may do is just wait until 8K because they don't want to go through it for 4K and then a few years later have to do it again for 8K. And they just all really, in just the recent history, they all went to HD, right? So that was a big, complete change.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it because I think that 10 years from now they're going to be gone anyway. So, I mean, why do something that you're only going to use for a short period of time? So I think it's going to all be via the internet. Everything's going to be streamed. And now we're back to that same discussion where everybody has to have high-speed internet. Yep. So we've come full circle on the discussion.
Yeah, so I agree. And but it's interesting. It was a really interesting thing. They talked about specific megabits per second that they're going to do, and some testing that they did. I think they did the NFL's tested it, the NBA's tested it, and Comcast tested something. But it's gorgeous. But they said right now, based on what TV you buy, they're not all the same, and you might have a certain type of content available to you if you get the Vizio. You might have a different set if you get the Samsung 4K TV. So while I would say if you are in the market for a Handycam and you got an option of 4K or 1080p, I would definitely get the 4K if you can afford it to future-proof your content. But if you have to buy a TV, I'd get the 4K, but I'm not seeking that out yet.
I'm going to wait until the standards are more solidified, and that hopefully will happen in the next 6 months or so, where they'll come up with a standard. And as far as shooting in 4K, I get a lot of people commenting on my videos about 4K, which I've been doing now for 6 or 8 months. I had the FC1000, Panasonic FC1000 was my first 4K camera, and I like it a little better than this one. I like it's got the 1-inch sensor, and it's got more reach on the zoom. So if I was going to buy one or the other, it's a little less money than this. I'd buy the FC1000. My reviews on my YouTube channel that now has 10 million views. But what I tell people is absolutely get the 4K and absolutely shoot in 4K, because even if you're exporting in 1080p, if your final product is going to be 1080p, it just gives you a lot more versatility in editing because you can crop in and so on. You can do some pan and zooms. You can do some really cool stuff. And plus, if you just take the 4K image and you downscale it to 1080 and export it out, you end up with higher quality looking 1080 as well. So there's a whole bunch of advantages to doing it and very few disadvantages. The file sizes aren't that big in this one. This is using some kind of compression that, I mean, the file sizes are ridiculously small for considering it's 4K, and it's let's see what it says here. It's AVCS is the codec, and it's 100 megabits per second or whatever is the bit rate, which is pretty good. But it's compressed, and so the files are very easy to work with. And in most editors like Final Cut Pro, you can even use proxy media to edit your video if you've got a relatively slow older machine. That's still not a big problem because you can use proxy media. So absolutely go 4K.
Proxy media is when you have two copies of it, right? Where one is dumbed down, so for faster editing, that sort of thing, and then when you make the final render.
When you import it in, you've got an option there to create proxy media, or you can do it later as well if you want, but you can do it on import. It takes a little longer to import everything in because it's making that proxy media too, but then when you're editing in that much compressed file that you're working with, so it's lightning fast, and then when you finish all your edits and all that, you export out in whatever size you want, again 1080p or 4K, whatever you want. And you're good to go.
The TV stations do that. What they'll do is they'll actually have two, like an SDHC card for the real one, and then they'll have an SD card. They're simultaneously recording maybe in 720p or something in a 3 or 4 or 5 megabit stream, and then the real one's full. And then the reporter's in the van as they go back, and he or she can be on the laptop editing the package. And then when they get back to the station, it's all time coded. They upload the real one, so it's a lot faster. Especially years ago, it was a bigger deal because speed and computers weren't up to snuff like they are now. Okay, so I'm just going to switch. We're going to talk about the Waffle House thing in just a second, but the other topic kind of related here. NBC is pushing TV everywhere with plan for live TV on mobile. It's working at WRC, the DC NBC station. This is NBC-owned television stations that you will have to have a plan with a paid provider.
That's horse
sucks.
That's no thing. They're not doing anything there. They're whistling past the graveyard anyway. I mean, let's face it, these guys are gone.
But it's better than CBS's deal because CBS charges you for that, and NBC is going to give it away. But the CBS one includes, I think, all of their legacy, or a lot of their legacy shows. It's more like a Hulu.
Netflix, and Amazon, and all the new media guys. I mean, they gotta love the way the incumbents are dragging their heels and then throwing out all these BS solutions like this. I mean, they have to love it because it's giving them more and more runway to ramp up and do their thing. The new guys. And the only reason the incumbents have been around as long as they have is because, like for example, YouTube, they haven't leveraged really what they have the way they should. If they ever started leveraging that content the way they really could, it would probably be game over already. But it's just a question of time before these incumbents fall.
Cy comments, in the scheme of things, broadband is a new technology. South Korea is ahead because their core infrastructure is newer. We are still using phone lines that were installed 30 plus years ago. And then
but we have to fix, and that's what we could fix if we stepped up and really wanted to do it, and we could fix all that.
Next is Waffle House. I think this is the first time we've discussed Waffle House on our tech show. It's kind of an interesting story. There's this delivery company, which makes sense, and what they do is it's competition for FedEx and UPS. Let's say that you were driving from Sarasota back to Maryland to Camp David, and you could get the app and say, I'm doing this, and somebody has any packages they want to deliver, obviously, hopefully legally, right? Not drugs, that they would pay you, and you get 80%, and the company gets 20%. And it's more or less the same as UPS or FedEx, but it's cheaper if it's a big package or something.
Actually, they said that it's generally more expensive and that it might be cheaper with a big package.
Well, what possible...
And they also said that they've... Did you see the number of packages that they've delivered?
Did they say like...
It's like almost
50?
Nothing.
I think that 2,600 people have downloaded the app and 50 packages have been delivered.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. I mean...
But it's almost... I read that and I was like, is that a typo? And they've just signed up a major deal with what is Waffle House, 1,500 or 15,000 restaurants or something? It's a lot.
That's a good question.
But they're open 24/7. There's actually a Waffle House index to see how bad a disaster is, because Waffle House is famous for staying open. They get generators, whatever, right? So if there's an earthquake or a typhoon or whatever, and there's a Waffle House in the town, if they close, it's getting real. It's they're like, oh shit.
They're the canary in the coal mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this package thing. I think we have to wait a little while to see if this thing's going to have legs. It's not quite there yet.
But the good news is, if you do it, you meet up at the Waffle House. That's their role. But you get a free waffle and a beverage, which UPS does not.
It's the shipper, or it's the shipper that gets it, or the receiver. Not both.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe one gets the beverage and the other one.
This is great. Yeah.
So that
happened. One more thing to worry the post office, right? I mean, if they don't have enough things to worry about.
This is going to be what does them in finally.
No, we'll continue to support them.
Okay, so
money out.
Our last topic is the dress. You got to look at this picture, Craig. This post has a lot of views. At the start of the show here is up to 32 million. The question is, what color is this dress? What color do you see, Craig?
I don't see it yet. You're not sharing it yet.
Well, you won't see. Just click on the link in the topic doc if you still got it open. But this is a big debate, apparently. The actual dress, I look at it, I see gold and white. But some people say it's blue and gray. And the actual dress is blue and white or blue and gray. But that particular.
So now, how did this make the topic list?
Because it went viral. It's on the news everywhere. What color do you see? Or are you
I'm not looking at it. I'll say blue.
Okay.
Because your shirt's blue, so
it's gold. You go. My shirt's gold.
Oh, it's gold? Okay.
No, apparently this particular hue, I don't know, but there was this big thing. I mean, it was on all the news channels. I don't know. It looks gold to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a guy. Maybe girls see stuff differently. And Sai's got Trojans on his feed there. That's a whole thing. Based on your recent Fitbit activity, we recommend these products. Pampers and Trojans. That's funny. All right. Okay, last check for comments. Coming up on Monday, we will discuss Android things. And that's at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Craig, how was your week?
I will illustrate that by showing a photo. Stand by. Let me see if I can get my screen share here to go. So, my week was pretty good. How was your week?
It was pretty good. There you go. That's Audrey.
So yeah, my week was pretty good.
Now, what's her site if people want to see her hula hooping stuff?
Hoopinglive.com. Hoopinglive.com. And they can also, on my YouTube channel, which now has 10 million plus views, did I mention that?
And where can people find that?
They can go to my YouTube, which is youtube.com/areacable. youtube.com/areacable. Shout out to Comcast. And just go there and search keyword Audrey, and you'll find a bunch of videos on my channel that you might not even find on Hooping Live. So there you go.
Excellent. My week was good, I guess. It was an off week, so next week I'll be busy with the paper. And I don't feel well tonight. That's why I'm kind of low-key, not my usual animated self. Plus, I'm trapped in a hangout with Craig Shipp, so...
Did I mention that this week my YouTube channel hit 10 million views?
Excellent news.
So
anyway, thank you all for your comments. We appreciate it. I'll do one last check for YouTube comments. I thought I'd get something on the Trojans, but maybe it's the delay. But thanks for watching. We appreciate it. So we have 2 shows. Monday night is Our Android Week. That's 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Wait a minute. Before you wrap up, did anybody agree with me at all in the comments?
I think one guy.
One guy agreed with me? Okay, that's good. Okay, then you can wrap up.
Okay.
Was he sober?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't breathalyze him.
Okay.
But he didn't have any strong typos.
Okay.
But anyway, this program is every Friday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, on Google Plus and YouTube Live. So we appreciate it. So.
And what time do you start the show?
8:30 to 9.
Okay.
What's the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And
By the way, the Hooping Live show is every Monday at 9 p.m. Monday at 9 p.m. and that does start at 9 p.m.
Kills our ratings.
Sharp.
I'll be on the radio tomorrow on the Virginia Talk Radio Network. I'll be discussing the net neutrality thing and explaining why Craig is wrong. That's VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com, or one of my favorite is WIQO. You can listen live online, WIQORadio.com, and that's at 11 a.m. right after CBS News. So there, every Saturday, about 11:07 a.m. And Spock has died, so this show's dedicated to Leonard Nimoy.
He died?
He died at 83 today.
Oh my God. That's a shame.
He was so good at that role.
Yeah.
The other guy, I forget his name, black guy, Tuvok was really good. But nobody owned the Vulcan character like Leonard Nimoy. He was great.
Yeah.
And he hated being typecast, but he was. I couldn't see him as anything else. All those guys, you know. So anyway, all right, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Until next time, have an epic Google Plus week.